The impeachment trial of President Donald Trump is underway. Republicans and Democrats have been fighting over the rules for how the trial should proceed. The CBC's Katie Simpson has been watching it all unfold. She's there in Washington with the latest. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Vashi.
So they're on a break right now, right? I think they when I was listening right before the show started, they're taking a break so that they can come back and debate a second amendment to the rules put forward by the Democrats. Is that right?
That's right. This process is not going to move quickly. We knew that, and that's exactly how it's playing out. The main focus of today is to set the parameters, the roadmap for how this trial is going to move forward. And the Democrats have been pushing for some concessions, and they did get some. When Mitch McConnell first announced how he wanted this to all play out, he presented lawmakers with a plan that would have opening arguments take place each side, the Democrats prosecuting the president, and the president's lawyers defending the president. Each side would get 24 hours to present their arguments, their opening arguments, and that 24 hours had to be divided up over 2 days. So it'd be 2 12-hour shifts for each side. And the thing is, impeachment doesn't start until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So the Democrats were very loudly upset, saying some of the most important discussions here, some of the most important arguments might happen in the overnight hours when most Americans will be sleeping. Now, there are reports, some Republican lawmakers are talking about how there was actually blowback from within the GOP about that provision. And Mitch McConnell took a step back and said, okay. And so he changed that. Now those arguments will be played out over 3 days rather than 2 days. But that's about where the compromises are ending at this point. The Democrats are pushing to get guarantees that additional witnesses will be allowed to testify, as well as additional evidence be submitted. And Adam Schiff, the impeachment manager for the Democrats, took to the floor of the Senate today to really take aim at the way President Trump's lawyers are defending the president and their side of the facts.
When you hear them attack the House managers, what you're really hearing is, we don't want to talk about the president's guilt. We don't want to talk about the McConnell resolution and how patently unfair it is. We don't want to talk about how pardon the expression, ass backwards it is to have a trial and then ask for witnesses. And so we'll attack the House managers because maybe we can distract you for a moment from what's before you. Maybe if we attack the House managers, you'll be thinking about them instead of thinking about the guilt of the president.
So that's some of the more colorful language that we've heard on the floor of the Senate today. I don't know if we should have bleeped that out, but it happened in the Senate. Now, the Republicans, of course, or the Trump lawyers, Trump's legal team, they're very much supportive of the rules that the Republicans have put forward. They argue that if the Democrats need more evidence or need more witnesses, that they didn't do their job properly, that their case clearly doesn't meet the bar of impeachable offenses because what went through the House should be good enough to take to trial at the Senate. That's their line of argument. They're also saying that they believe this entire process has been a political charade.
A partisan impeachment is like stealing an election. And that's exactly what we have. We have, talk about the framers' worst nightmare. It's a partisan impeachment that they've delivered to your doorstep in an election year. Some of you are upset because you should be in Iowa right now. But instead we're here, and they're not ready to go. And it's outrageous. It's outrageous.
The only thing that's been decided so far since these arguments back and forth began around 1 o'clock this afternoon is that the Republicans have rejected a push by the Democrats to specifically subpoena documents from the White House. So I mentioned that the Democrats want more documents, more evidence submitted, and they're submitting amendments with each sort of detailed request that they want. The first one for more evidence from the White House got shut down by the Republicans, and now they're asking for more evidence from the State Department. We don't know how many amendments that Chuck Schumer, the lead Democrat in the Senate, how many amendments he's going to bring forward. So that's where things are set right now. The parameters have not been sorted out just yet. They're still talking about everything. As I mentioned, it doesn't move quickly.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to try and understand. So they're debating these amendments, like, where does this go from here? It seems hard to judge, but like, what should we be anticipating?
So right now, Mitch McConnell, the majority House leader, or the majority Senate leader, he introduced his overall roadmap. He read it in the Senate, or it was read in the Senate, and there's going to be debate on that. But in the meantime, the Democrats have the ability to put forward these amendments of the different things they want to see included. And so the first one was put forward. That was to subpoena more evidence from the White House in this. That was, once they put it forward, there was debate back and forth on both sides. It lasted well over an hour. And then there was a vote. And because the Republicans have more power, they shut it down. They got rid of it. And now the Democrats are bringing forward a new amendment. This is calling for more information, more evidence, and more documents from the State Department this time. So they're on a break right now. They're going to go back and forth and debate it some more once they return from break. And then it's likely the Republicans are going to use their majority to shut that down. This will continue for as long as Chuck Schumer wants to bring forward amendments. At some point, these senators are going to have to make some decisions about, are they going to accept the overall roadmap that was presented by Mitch McConnell? But until then, this is how things are proceeding. It's very technical, back and forth, but interesting nonetheless. And it's going to be, it's going to set the parameters here, and it will certainly have a massive impact on how this entire procedure will move forward.
All right. Thank you, Katie. I appreciate the help and the explanation. Our Katie Simpson in Washington. This is, meanwhile, only the third time in history that a president has faced an impeachment trial. First was Andrew Johnson in 1868, then Bill Clinton in 1999. What do those impeachment trials tell us about what to expect this time around? Gordon Giffin was the U.S. ambassador to Canada during the Clinton impeachment. He joins us now from Toronto. Hi, Mr. Giffin. Nice to see you. Thanks very much for your time today.
Good to see you. I'm glad you didn't say I served during the Andrew Johnson time.
that would have been incorrect and a little frightening. Let me start off with a question that I think a lot of our viewers have, which is we're watching what's unfolding today, and it seems incremental. I understand there's a bigger story obviously behind it, but the actual goings on in the Senate appear fairly incremental at this stage. What is your interpretation of the significance of what's happening right now?
Well, the thing to keep in mind is, for better or worse, the impeachment process is a political process. It's a group of elected officials, first in the House, now in the Senate, trying to make a judgment on a political basis. And so the ebb and flow is interesting, but there's no real rules of evidence or procedure that you would ordinarily see in a courtroom. And that's hard to get accustomed to. What's going on now is just some preliminary jousting. I don't think the Democrats will be successful with their amendments. Part of what they're trying to do is just set up some of the moderate Republican senators for a further vote later in the process, where the biggest question, I think, of this process, other than guilty or not guilty, it will be whether or not to call John Bolton as a witness. And I think the Democrats are simply trying to set it up where they can make a claim that all of the Republicans are voting against transparency and voting against learning the facts. And that will be a little scary for some of the Republicans who are up for re-election.
And for our viewers, of course, John Bolton is a former national security advisor who ended up resigning, or depending on who's telling the story, was forced out. He is somebody who said he's willing to testify before the Senate, but that he wants to be subpoenaed. So that is part of why they're debating that. When you think back to the impeachment trial with Bill Clinton, and you're comparing the political climate then to the political climate now, what strikes you?
Well, it just strikes me that it depends on what color jersey you're wearing, what your argument is right now. If you look at Lindsey Graham, who was a vociferous advocate of impeaching Bill Clinton, he now thinks this is a waste of time to be discussing impeaching the current president. Bill Clinton's conduct, while not appropriate, had nothing to do with the conduct of his office, whereas this does have to do with the conduct of the presidency. So if nothing else, it seems that this has more substance than the one last time. And the flip side is Democrats back then were talking about how it was an effort to reverse a duly performed election to try and remove Bill Clinton. Now it's the Republicans arguing that, and the Democrats saying, oh no, this is about the substance of impeachment. So it changes depending on the party of the president.
Yeah, that's very true. I recall earlier today seeing a clip of Chuck Schumer arguing against having any witnesses during the Bill Clinton trial, and obviously he's about to be on the floor arguing for the exact opposite. What is your observation or your assessment of the level of public appetite for what's happening right now? Obviously, the media landscape is very different. I remember even during the Bill Clinton impeachment trial, it was very much gripping the country and our country. People were paying attention. Do you think that they are engaged to the same degree?
No, I don't. I don't think the country is seized by this. I think it's collateral and background noise. I don't think anyone expects the president to be removed, and so people are going on about their lives. I'm a political junkie. I've been part of the political process for all of my adult life, and I'm barely paying attention to this. So I'm absolutely confident the country isn't seized with it. Yes, they were paying more attention to the Clinton time, but the allegations were more salacious, if you will.
Right.
You know, whether or not, listen, I think there's substance to be addressed here, but whether or not Donald Trump had an inappropriate conversation with the leader of Ukraine is not quite as captivating to the average citizen.
Do you think, though, that there are perhaps long-term consequences for the president, both politically and substantively?
Well, let me put it this way, I would hope so. There has to be some accountability for the conduct. I think the conduct was inappropriate at best, and it's by definition impeachable conduct because he was impeached. There's a difference between being impeached and removed. He will be the third president in history that was ever impeached, which is a sanction. It is a determination that he conducted himself inappropriately. He will not be removed from office unless there is further evidence that is more flamboyant, if you will. But there will be a day of reckoning, and that is in November of this year. And it's at that time that whoever the Democratic nominee is will make their case that for a variety of reasons, this being one of them, Donald Trump should not be reelected. And that's when the accountability will be visited, or not.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Giffen. Pleasure to have you back on the show, and thanks for your insights this evening. Gordon Giffen, former U.S. Ambassador to Canada, now with Dentons. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.